Hello Star Souls and welcome to another video. This, however, is not gonna be a pick a card. We're gonna be discussing some spiritual concepts that some of you have asked about in the comment section below. Some of you have asked for me to elaborate or explain what I mean when I talk about certain spiritual concepts, ideas. So here I am doing that, and I want to put some disclaimers that this is not a lecture, I'm not teaching you anything. I will be basically sharing my own experience on my spiritual journey through the guidance I receive in meditation, what I've gained as knowledge from even readings I've done for clients, and also simply my intuitive insight through my own synchronicities in regards to these spiritual ideas that we're gonna be discussing. Yeah, so please don't view this as a lesson. I'm not a teacher. I definitely don't feel ready to be in such a position, but I feel like I should share. I feel like this information that I have sits in me and it's kind of weighing me down, and I just wanna put it out, put it out there. And if my synchronicities and my journey resonates with someone and it helps them, then I've done my job. So I have no guidelines or structure for this video, but we will start with the Akashic records. What I can provide you with about the Akashic records. So first of all, what are they? Many call them the library, the universal library, and I do think it is kind of like that. I feel like the Akashic records as a visual interpretation that I've been given, it's like Source has eyes everywhere. The ultimate creator, the ultimate consciousness that connects all of us has little eyes everywhere. And all that information from these gazillions, billions of eyes of awareness, points of awareness in time and space, all of these points of awareness collect information from their perspective, and they feed the Akashic records. Now, what I think makes the Akashic records special is we have quantum physics, right? We have multidimensionality, we have parallel universes. I feel like when you are resonating with certain timelines, you are on a certain trajectory as a soul, you would open one portion of the Akashic records, one portion of that library to support you. Because I do believe that sometimes there is information that would be irrelevant on our journey. And I feel like the Akashic records only give you what is relevant to you or the people you want to help and your ascension process. So in that way, I feel like what makes the Akashic records different, because when I say they are everywhere, the records are everywhere, here in the air, pockets of information all around us. When I say that, I do feel like there is a filter to it. When you start to actually tap into that information, I may not need the information that is happening right here. I may need information about Egypt because in 3 years that might be on my timeline and I might travel there. So when I tap into the Akashic records, I wouldn't be accessing about the information collected in that space, not physically, but the etheric space that takes place here. But I'll be tapping in information about Egypt. So that's why I think the Akashic records are special. They have filters. They only present to you what you need to know and what your consciousness is capable to understand, really. And what would be relevant to you. And one question I always ask before doing readings is, give me information that would be relevant to my client. Because I've had experiences where I would open information that is irrelevant and really not helpful in any way for the situation, but it's just there. And that is the little trick in the Akashic records. When you work in them, you really want to access info that makes sense and that is helpful. Otherwise, you're just basically kind of going into this escapism tendency of spirituality where you get excited to receive information. You get excited, it's kind of like an adrenaline rush to be in these spiritual planes, but it does not support your ascension. It does not help you or relate to you in any way. So what makes the Akashic Records special are these filters that I feel that help you really access what you need. Because if you were to access all of it, imagine accessing all parallel lives that you've had, or all parallel universes that exist, and all the knowledge from all time and space that has ever been. That's impossible for the human brain in 3D to carry, even in 5D to carry. So that's what makes them special. And they are kind of like a library. You could view them this way if this helps you navigate them. For me personally, I really wanted to talk about how to recognize the Akashic records, because many of us call them a library. For me, they are a library, but also an astral plane, an energetic space. But if they're everywhere, something I wanted to mention, if they're everywhere, why do we call them a specific way? Why is it not like omnipresent information or something like that? I feel this label, Akashic Records, helps us tune into the specific space and time of the records, or tune into specific information. So labels just help us kind of become objective and navigate the streams of information that come through. Otherwise, it would be a lot of chaotic downloads that we cannot hold on to or make sense out of. So the label Akashic Records helps you tune into that. You set an intention. Where are you working in the astral worlds? That's why we use it. That's why it's helpful. Not necessarily because it's an literal, actual library. Again, visually, your intuition could see it like that because it helps it understand it. But it's not always, the spiritual planes are not so literal, but giving it some sort of image or structure helps us navigate them and helps us orient ourselves. Where are we now? Where is my perception focused? Like, where is my perception coming from? What point do I occupy in space and time? I love this saying, space and time. What point in space and time does my perception occupy? Akashic Records. Okay, I know where I am. I'm not lost, and I'm not chaotically communicating or channeling from God knows where from, So that's the importance of the label. Now, how do you recognize the Akashic Records? Once again, this is my personal experience. In the Akashic Records, how I started to work in them was quite it was just a coincidence, I guess, or unintentionally, I should say. Yeah, unintentionally. And I'm sorry, I'm always playing with my hair, but it's hot. And yeah, summer has been taking a toll on me. So how to recognize the Akashic Records? When I first started, I didn't know it was the Akashic Records. I simply started to do Starseed Origins readings, and I felt like I should meditate and channel instead of using Oracle or Tarot cards. And whenever I would go in meditation, I noticed that I would have some sort of experience of opening. Something would open and I would enter. It would be a couple of doors. I've been through like passing through corridors, entering gates, portals, actually going into a library and opening a book. But at the beginning, it was these doors. I would go through doors and end up somewhere, and then from that space, I would channel information. And I was like, okay, I guess that's like a vision quest that just gets me tuned in. It took me a while um, to start to actually receive this visual of a library opening, and in my mind it clicked. This is the Akashic records. It should be, because when I was passing through doors, I would hear voices of guides, but when I entered a library like place, I actually saw these teachers, guardians of that space, of that astral space, and they just presented their energy. They were like, we are here, we occupy this territory. And that really made me think, this is something special, this is something different, because I wasn't alone. From the very first beginning, when I would travel to these places, I was not alone. There was always, I felt a presence of a being that would guide me. But when I entered a library like space, it was very clear. It wasn't just a voice or a sensation, I would see them. And they literally would invite me to enter. And they were very grounded. That was something that stood out to me, that these ascended spiritual beings were very grounded, in terms of they knew their structure. They knew. I felt intimidated and I felt a lot of respect, because I knew intuitively that they know a lot, and that they invite me and they want me to proceed with responsibility. So I was like, okay, a little hesitant, but I think it's a good sign to feel such intuitive guidance, like either be playful, in this lighthearted energy, or to feel you gotta be responsible with this information. This is when I know it's real, for me personally. Maybe it's a little subjective, maybe it's just that my soul works through the values and the morals of responsibility and channeling with responsibility. But for others, it could be if they are accessing the Akashic records through their heart space. Ooh, another difference that I'm just picking up on now. But yeah, if they're accessing the Akashic records or knowledge and they channel through the heart space, that is their center, that is their the blueprint of their ascension, let's say, the heart journey. I think they would be invited through very light-hearted energy, like, this is the information, share it with the world, be open about it, be free-spirited about it. But with me, because back then, even now I'm more in my heart, but back then I was very mental. I was very much in the crown, in the third eye, and I constantly try not to be so much in there. But yeah, it's how I'm built, I guess. For me, it's like, that's the knowledge. Use it with precaution. Be responsible with it, because it's important. So one way to recognize the records is you will be somehow invited. You would somehow pass through a door, a gate. You would have either a visual or an inner knowing that you've moved through some sort of portal, and now you are in a different space or place. The other sign is there will be always a presence or a teacher or a master, but oftentimes, so again, it depends. At the beginning, I felt a singular presence, later it became like I became aware of many masters, but one particular would guide me or show me around, or take me to the book or the records of the person I was channeling for. So yeah, you may experience both, but there will be always a presence or a guide, because when you enter something new in the astral plane, kind of it would be a validation that you are on a high vibrational timeline in your spiritual development when you have a guide, when you have this beautiful presence that you can trust and is taking you to the right places, giving you the right information. Again, you should use your intuition and discernment here, but most of the time having a guide or being invited or initiated into knowledge or astral planes, but specifically the Akashic records, having a guide for me is a big sign that you're doing it right. If you feel very lonely, I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on the person. I'll be very honest. I'm not sure. It may depend on the person, but for me, that's one of the signs. And I think for many people, you will have that experience if you enter the Akashic records, particularly. So here I am, kind of showing you that I'm talking from personal experience and I'm not teaching you, okay? Because I don't know if you can enter these spaces and not have a guide show you around. I don't know if that's possible or if that is a good or a bad sign. But for me personally, a good sign is having a mentor, someone to initiate you into these places. So I guess that's it about the Akashic records. Another disclaimer about them: they are the universal library containing all information in existence, but don't think that just because you've accessed the Akashic records once or twice, or you're working in them regularly, you would be able to access any information that you want to know. Because there was a fly. It takes time for your consciousness to expand and to be ready to receive certain light codes, because this is what information is. It is light, it is light codes, or it is matter, dark matter, that has been transmuted into light codes. This is what information is. So yeah, it takes your consciousness time to expand and to start vibrating at different frequencies in order to be able to download this information, access these pockets of information from the Akashic records. Now, what else should we talk about? Let's talk about tarot. I have a little piece of paper, but literally I have nothing written on it. Just this, and that's it. And I already spoke about everything I wrote down, so I'm in the empty zone, in the free zone. We're gonna do this freestyle. So let's talk about tarot and my journey with it, how to read intuitively, how to get started. So, my beginning with tarot was that I saw this deck in a bookstore and I really wanted it, and my friends got it for me for my birthday. I was 16 or 15. I think for my 15th or 16th birthday. They got it for me and I couldn't read it all. As every beginner, I had no idea about the meanings of the cards. So I would pull cards for fun, read on the internet. We would do seances or something. Just for fun, literally, because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know the meanings, and I definitely did not know or realize the power of tarot. So this is how I started. I learned the traditional meanings, let me be very honest, in a very Generation Z style, Generation Z. That was how I learned, through YouTube. I watched pick a cards and I learned the traditional meanings. Later on, I started to read about the tarot cards, and I would collect all that information. And after this entire journey, I would start forming my own, maybe like 6 months or 7 months in after I got my tarot deck, I would start forming my own interpretations. I was like, okay, if that is the traditional meaning, when you combine these two cards, that's logical. That would make sense to be the interpretation. And the more I would work with tarot, the more the nuances and the meanings would become intuitive rather than, oh, this is what the card signifies. I would stare at the imagery. I would really pick up on the way the objects on the card were placed. Were they symmetric? Were they chaotically placed all over the card? I am a very visual person. I am into arts. I am studying arts, so studying for now on my own, but soon, hopefully I'll be entering college for arts. But anyways, I'm a very visual person, so visual things really stir up my intuition, even if it's a very simplistic deck, which my first deck is the very first original Tarot du Marseille. Here it is. I'm gonna show you some cards to get an idea. It's not like the Rider-Waite, where you still have colors and symbols playing in the cards, except for the court cards and the major arcana, which are, depicted. There are some symbols, like the scepter or the crown, the shield, the cup. There isn't a fish in the cup. How many of you have heard people interpreting the card, the Page of Cups, with, there is a fish in the cup, this shows that something has already manifested, blah blah blah. Well, I didn't have a fish in the cup. I had no fish. I had no fish. But except for the major arcana and the court cards, the rest is like this: Wands, Ten of Wands, Seven of Cups, no snakes, no anything in the cups, no person standing staring in the cups, nothing. Simple imagery. And I am so grateful for this very simple deck. It allowed me first to focus on actually learning tarot, and being curious about it, because I noticed myself that when I have a rich, colorful deck, I'm like, I won't read the guidebook. I have so much color, symbols, numbers. I would go off with my intuition. But this actually was like, you gotta do the research, girl. You gotta do it. No escaping. But thanks to all my Scorpio placements and my Sag rising, I am a curious gal, and I did my research. So yeah, this is the deck I learned tarot with, and I actually feel so grateful because I started to develop my intuition with this deck. No colors, nothing, very simplistic. This is the best way, because you don't rely, even with colorful indie decks, you still rely on the cards for the majority of the reading. You still rely on certain visual effect that the card has on you, and people sometimes don't realize it, and they're like, it's my intuition. It is your subconscious mind. You saw purple and you thought of, maybe purple leads to royalty, third eye, so people may say this is about your spiritual legacy. Yeah, because you saw purple, but you still relied on the card. So when you work with very simplistic decks, it can be challenging at first, and you may think that you're only talking the traditional meanings and you're a very, very basic reader. But if you continue to work with such decks, you would actually start channeling. And nothing against colorful decks, I love it. Once again, I'm an artistic visual person. I love using visuals to stir up my subconscious. But there is this difference between subjective intuition and objective channeling. When you channel objectively, you get pure information from source. When you channel subjectively, you know what happens. You channel through color, symbols, all that. You channel from your subconscious mind. And because your subconscious mind attracts and creates your reality, you would attract people who relate to your story. And when you tell your story, they resonate with the messages. So you become a great intuitive reader. And that is helpful. And I am in such position a lot of the times when I read cards. But that's why I like to channel without cards as well, because this is where you channel objectively. Both ways to channel are valid and can help people, and you could actually tap into the other person's energy because you've attracted someone of a similar frequency. When you tap into your own frequency, you tap into that similarity, so you channel for them as well. So it's helpful, and it works. But I'm simply explaining some of the mechanics of channeling that I figured out at some point, because I have a Scorpio Mercury, so I really like to know how things work behind the scenes, and I've always been curious, okay, is this tarot thing real? Like, how does it work? How do pick cards work? How does intuitive, I'm putting quotes because intuition is indeed very, very subjective. And it takes time to train it to become objective. And trust me, I'm not there. I am not there. But I recognized that there is this, that exists, subjectivity and objectivity in intuitive channeling, and both can be valid and both can be helpful and both can pick up on true, relevant information and messages. But I just really like sharp, objective truths. So I really would love to practice more and to become better at objective channeling and objective intuition, meaning without cards, without anything. So that's how I started with my tarot. And what I would recommend is that you also take, I'm looking at my deck, you also pick a deck that is very, very, very simplistic, and you give yourself a chance to kind of push yourself aside during readings and really tap into external energies. When you work with very simplistic cards, it's hard for you to project your subconscious on them. So you gotta channel. So you're kind of forced to channel. That's my advice. I don't know how many of you would resonate with that. And again, for different people, it is different, but I'm sharing the conclusions I've arrived at with my own personal journey. And I'm being very, very transparent because, trust me, it's not easy to say, I project my subconscious mind in your personal reading. Do I help you? Yes, I probably would. The messages would probably relate to you, but did I manifest you because you resonate with what I resonate with and I can channel for you through my vessel? But that is very normal, okay? That is a very transparent truth. But I want you to know that it's very normal, and it's not, if you channel this way, it's not like cheating, or it's not like you're deceiving your client or the people you read for. No, it's just how it works, It's just how it is. And if you enjoy subjective intuition, do your thing. If you enjoy objective intuition, do your thing. Another thing that I've noticed, with subjectivity, people who lean more towards that, they would be drawn on a personal journey, and through their personal development and journey, they would help others. With objectivity, you would have these analytical researchers. They could be still intuitive and mystics and psychics, but they would be more into the researching narratives and journeys, where they would like to actually make information make sense and bring it to you and teach it. Once again, this is kind of like a different type of teacher. One teacher teaches you through sharing their own experience. That is the beauty of all of us being connected, sharing a collective consciousness on the planet. But you would also have these teachers that they teach you from they distance themselves from the information. The information sometimes would not be relevant to them, but that's why they can perceive it in a very objective, true manner and deliver it to you raw information, sharp and raw. And different people resonate with different types of teachers at different stages of their journey. So I want you to now think of all the readers you've listened to, all the books you've read, all the researchers you followed and their work, and how do they do it? Are they more subjective? Are they a mix? Are they more objective? And see how this resonated to your own journey. Try to think for yourself and make these connections, and you would see how synchronistic life is. So back to tarot, you guys. I wanted to also talk about how tarot works on your spiritual journey, and how this is, like, for me, the best divination tool for spiritual awakening, for a very gentle spiritual awakening most of the time. So tarot, the history of tarot is that we would like to think it was an ancient Egyptian technology, but it isn't. It was created in the Renaissance, I believe in Italy, and then it became famous and popular in France and in Spain, and then all over the world, slowly in Europe, as playing cards, and later on as a divination tool. But that is the very mundane history of tarot. But tarot is ancient indeed, and not in its creation, but it is ancient in the information it contains. That was a long sentence. So, tarot was created around the Renaissance, and many books were written in the Renaissance. Many books are written in the 21st century, but the information that they hold and bring to you, this is what makes them ancient tools. Because time does not work linearly, as many of us know. So basically, to me, tarot is an ancient tool, because the symbols, the messages, and the meanings are universal truth and wisdom from a long time ago. Maybe beyond Lemuria, maybe beyond Atlantis. I don't know how far back in time we could go, but it holds the keys to Earth School. That's what I figured out. Tarot really holds the keys for Earth School, the key information for Earth School. Maybe not other star systems and planets, maybe on some deeper levels, if you really deeply investigate each card, but for now, what is really important and relevant to us as humanity and those of us who are into tarot is that tarot carries knowledge for Earth School. It shows you how to navigate this place. It talks about your journey. It deals with the most important major archetypes and most important stages of initiation, the learning process, the life cycles, the universal cycles. I would like to, in the future, make a video and go in depth about the entire cosmology and the entire library of knowledge that tarot offers. But for now, I want to explain how tarot works on your spiritual journey and how it helps you awaken. So basically, each tarot card containing these symbols, as souls with many incarnations, in our subconscious, we understand the symbols, we know what they represent, and when we encounter them, when we're ready in our waking state, our waking life, when we encounter those symbols start to interact with the subconscious. They start to interact not only with that, but also with your soul. Because for me, the subconscious is the gate towards the spirit, towards the soul. That's why, a quick note, side note, when you start with subjective intuition, tuning into becoming an objective intuitive is not so hard. But we all start with subjectivity, okay? We all start there, and the better we become, the more sharp and objective we become. And when you play with the cards, when you do readings for yourself, for other people, these symbols that are on the cards, they start to interact with your subconscious without you even realizing. You start to absorb them. And they start to stir up soul alchemy within you. They start to stir up alchemical processes in your subconscious. You could view it purely as a psychological thing, but for me, it takes place spiritually as well. And when this starts happening, certain ideas, revelations will start coming to you, and you may wonder, where did they come from? The combination of the cards unlock different processes within you and different truths. And I would say that tarot has like the most important universal laws and teachings encoded in it. So you, just by playing with the cards, just by learning the cards, you encode, enrich yourself with these universal truths. You saturate your being and your subconsciousness with these universal truths, and they would start appearing through dreams, synchronicities. As I said, your subconscious creates your reality. So when you consume this type of knowledge through symbolism, through working with tarot, you would start attracting validation for that knowledge. And this knowledge will solidify and solidify more and more and more until you integrate it consciously. It's no longer an instinctual or subconscious belief. You become aware of you having that belief or that knowing within you. And this is when you integrate it. So what I've noticed is that I would do readings for myself. The different combinations of cards I would start getting like messages about the dark ages. I would start getting messages about how different societies and brotherhoods of light and dark worked in the past. Through doing collective spreads or readings for myself, I would understand different dynamics. I would start realize, oh my gosh, tarot does not just talk about my day-to-day 3D life. Tarot explains to me the spiritual dynamics behind my life. And when I started to perceive the cards this way, that it's not just 3D predictions or explanations or resolutions to your problems, it does explain the spiritual dynamics, I would gain so much knowledge just from doing readings with my tarot, not reading books or anything else, or even meditating. I wasn't channeling then. I wasn't meditating or channeling, but tarot would deliver it to me. It would give it to me on a silver platter or on my table, basically, where I would lay the cards. So that's how tarot works, and dedicate a lot of my I dedicated a lot of time to um, my reading practice, and it was fun. But I realized that a lot of my spiritual awakening was helped and managed, and I understood it better because I was interacting with universal symbols. So yeah, here the subjective intuition plays a role because you work with your subconscious, but you expand your mind, and it's a mix, it's two parallel journeys of subjectivity and objectivity and intuition, and you walk both journeys at the same time, kind of, but you want to simply have some self-awareness when you are operating from which point of awareness. That's just helpful, but it's not to judge your experience. Objectivity is not better than subjectivity, let me tell you that. But yeah, basically that's how tarot works. It delivers to you these universal symbols. They work within your subconscious mind. They even connect you to the collective unconscious because that's how archetypes work. They connect you to your past lives. They connect you to pockets of information that reside within the collective subconscious and unconscious. Through these archetypal connections, you enter these pockets of information, and your spiritual journey starts to shift and take you to new highs, and to new stages of awakening. So yeah, tarot is not just a divination tool, it's like an assistant throughout your journey, and I hope I make sense with explaining all of that. I do tend to kind of sidetrack myself, but I hope I make sense with how tarot works. It interacts with you, you interact with it on an unconscious level oftentimes, and you would start seeing results and effects of it in your intuitive work before you even realize that this is where it comes from. So yeah, I guess tarot is like, it can initiate you constantly. It never stops. You never learn tarot fully. You you always translate it through the new layers of information you've gained, you've accessed, you've had epiphanies about. And tarot becomes more and more intricate and more layered the more you grow into expanding your consciousness. So there is no end to learning tarot. No course, no teacher can give you the full spectrum of the meanings and the initiations that tarot can offer. So that's what I wanted to talk about tarot. And we're 42 minutes in. Well, the last thing I want to discuss is unconditional love. What a beautiful, beautiful concept. Let me have some water first. So, unconditional love. This would mostly relate to relationships. This is how I awakened to unconditional love for the first time, through a connection. So yeah, my twin flames and soulmates listening to this, you may really enjoy this, but I hope, I mean, I hope so. I hope this helps you some way, somehow. But basically, once again, sharing from personal experience. So, unconditional love is a very, very beautiful concept. To love people for who they are unconditionally. It doesn't matter, you just love them. That is a really amazing state to be at, mentally, emotionally, but it's not always easy to achieve. And I think, the twin flame journey actually is one that discusses unconditional love a lot. I don't consider myself a twin flame. I believe twin flames are actually pretty rare. So Many people who think they have a twin flame, they don't. That's my personal belief. I'm very, very strongly opinionated about this. I think it's a very rare connection. So yeah, the twin flame experience teaches unconditional love for sure, but so do a lot of soulmate and karmic connections. How I experienced unconditional love was through a karmic connection, let's call it that. I did perceive it to be a twin flame experience at first, but yeah, there is a reason why I believe it wasn't, and how I made the difference between a true twin flame and a karmic experience, an intense karmic experience. But I won't be going in depth about that. So basically, I was abandoned and hurt. And it took me a lot of time to heal, a lot of time to process why it happened, a lot of time to accept that it happened. But essentially, what helped me develop unconditional love for this person, and ever since then, this kind of like a mental switch that triggers my heart space as well, my emotions as well, it was this perception. Okay, this person that I perceive to be my karmic or my twin, this person, their higher self, their soul, decided to play the villain in my story. They decided to be the bad guy. They sacrificed being viewed as something high and ascended and good by me. They sacrificed that. They agreed to be viewed as the villain for some time in my story, in my life, so that I can grow. Or they decided to kind of maybe go against an inherited nature of goodwill and love, and to actually hurt me. Or they played the villain, basically. They played the villain, sacrificing their own image in a way, so that I could learn. This person put themselves in this role, in this position. They wore this mask so I could learn my lessons, and I could be awakened, and I could be initiated. And this epiphany came through a tarot reading with this deck when I was just getting started. But this epiphany freed me so much, fully actually. This epiphany, I integrated it maybe I was integrating it for a month or two. And after that, I was like, I love this person so much. And I want him to be happy, so happy, accomplished, in a beautiful relationship, or whatever it is, you know. And I want him to be on his highest timeline and ascend. And I don't want it to be with me. I really don't. And it felt super liberating. I was like, he played this role in my life to teach me. I am so grateful. I love you so much for doing that. But it allowed me to love someone from a distance. And I still love this person, but it's not romantic, or, you know, like there isn't this sexual attraction or a romantic attraction. It's not even platonic. I do feel intimate love, but how do I explain it in human words? It's like, I can love you from a distance. I don't mind. You simply exist. You are yourself, and I'm so in love with that. But, you know, I don't care if you're in my life or not. Even I don't really like want him in my life currently, but yeah, it's like, I wish you the best. I see you on your journey. I see you going on your journey, and I wish you the best. And this type of feeling is super liberating, and that's how I experienced unconditional love for the first time. I feel like I haven't even felt it for my parents or certain friends before that. And after that, I felt it in other situations as well, with different people that I've had issues with or not. I realized that, oh, this is what unconditional love is. You don't care if this person is in your life or not. You don't care at all, but you really want the best for them. You wish them the best, and you let them go in that sense. When people say, let them go and they will come to you, it's like, are you letting them go so that they can come to you? That's still an attachment. The paradox is that you're still attached because you're doing something conditionally. You let them go so that they can come back because you understand the energetic dynamic. When I let that person go, I did it because I didn't care, and I didn't want them in my life. Actually, I didn't want them. But it wasn't coming from a judgmental place like, oh, I don't want your bad vibes or anything. I just didn't want them in my life, but I loved them. I loved that person. And yeah, that's how I opened my heart to unconditional love. Um, that's how I experienced it for the first time, and it's the most liberating sensation ever. So if you are on a soulmate journey, if you are on a twin flame journey, and you are hurt beyond words, and this person is not showing any signs of change or honestly any signs of interest to be in your life, do not excuse them. Heal yourself and let them heal. Do not try to hold them in your life. I think that is very precious for your own journey, because let me tell you, this person changed my life and I am forever grateful, but I am so much better off without them in my life. It's an epiphany, and it takes time. It does take a lot of time. But yeah, so because I've spoken about unconditional love in some of my pick cards and I had a comment, could you elaborate on that? Here I am talking about unconditional love. So I hope this technique or mentality switch helps you trigger your heart space to feel it. And let me tell you, you may feel it the first time, but not the second. Or you may not feel it the first time, but it would take practice before you start actually generating that emotion. Just don't give up. It takes time to develop this feeling for someone. For me, it was a spontaneous awakening, and then I was integrating it more and more and more. For others, it could be the other way around. You integrate it and then spontaneously you're done. So I hope this discussion helped you and you enjoyed it. You enjoyed this little space with me. And yeah, once again, this is not a lecture. I'm not teaching you. I'm simply sharing my personal experience. And I would love to do more of these chats with you, kind of like discussions. Make sure to drop some like topics in the comment section below. I would definitely like to talk more about my spiritual experiences, my meditation experiences, but that is gonna be in the future when I feel more comfortable and I feel like I've understood and integrated that information and I'm ready to talk about it, because yeah. So that's it, me, unedited, raw, talking about my experiences and hoping they can help some of you. I love you a lot and I hope to see you soon in my pick a card reading.